Hi, I'm Dana and I spent 8 years in a relationship but 9 years living with my abusive partner, and I think that one of the largest reasons that I stuck around for so long is 100% that I just didn't realise that I was in an abusive situation. My literal thinking and the way that I'd heard about abuse in the past and the way that I perceived an abusive relationship was so vastly different from the relationship that I was in, and the few times that I did try to bring it up and be like, I don't think this is okay, he always had excuses as to why it actually was. Obviously, abusive situations can happen to anyone and they're always horrible, and there's always a whole variety of reasons that people stay and people end up in them in the first place. This is just my experience and how I feel about it and the ways in which I think that there's a whole bunch of reasons, but I do think quite a big base one is that my autistic literal thinking didn't allow me to see the way things actually were, because I was like, well, it's not this very stereotypical view of abuse. I'm not seeing the things that I see on television within my relationship, so obviously it's not an abusive relationship. So this is going to be super fun, because today I wanted to specifically get into some of the things that, the back and forths that I had and the arguments that we had when I was increasingly like, oh, this isn't okay. You know, the things that I noticed and realised had been going on for a really long time, and with like sort of like a fresh perspective, some more context, I was like, oh, actually this is like super not chill, my guy. So the first big one was that he always tried to claim that he wasn't abusive because I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to wash his clothes. I didn't have to cook his dinner. I didn't have to clean the house. There was nothing that I technically had to do. It's just that if he came home from work and I hadn't cooked his dinner, there'd be an argument. And sure, it would be about something completely different. It was never because I hadn't cooked dinner, obviously, because I didn't have to cook dinner. It's just that if I didn't do that thing, he would get really mad about something. And it'd be something completely random. It could be something from months ago. It would just be some random crap. So for the longest time, I didn't connect the two. I wasn't like, oh, if I don't make dinner, or if I don't wash his clothes, or if the house isn't clean enough, or whatever else, we have an argument. I didn't see it like that, because he told me like, oh, it's not because you haven't done this or that, it's because of this thing we're arguing about. It just so happens to be that the argument suddenly starts on the day that I haven't done the thing that I usually do that he likes me doing, and it's completely unrelated and didn't actually need to be brought up, and it's probably not like, it didn't need to be a thing at all. But that's where it's also really frustrating when abusers get the therapy talk and start finding out about that kind of thing, because I would be saying to him like, I don't understand why you're having an argument with me about getting the wrong tin of beans 3 shops ago right now. I don't get why this is an argument. It doesn't seem like a big deal. And all of a sudden I'm gaslighting him because it is a big deal to him and his feelings are valid. And it's like, okay, but you're screaming at me about a tin of beans from 3 months ago on the one day this month that I haven't cooked a dinner. So, and sort of tying into that, our arguments always frustrated me to no end. I've never had arguments like them with anybody else in my life, because he would have his point and I would be like, okay, here's my counterpoint, because I don't want this to be an argument, so I'm trying to just solve the situation before you start screaming in my face. And his next point would be something about what I'd just said, but not in the context of like, here's the response to your point. It would be in the terms of like, well, you said it like this, you said but these words, and I don't like those words. And I'd be like, okay, I'm sorry I said those words, but we were talking about this point. And he'd be like, no, that point doesn't matter anymore because you said this now. And it would go like that, round and round and round forever. Like, I remember him constantly being like, oh, it's always a but yeah, you always have an answer, don't you? You always have the but yeah. And it's like, I'm so sorry that I have a response to the thing that you said. I literally don't know what you want. I'm just trying my best to solve this situation. It was also the only time in my adult life that I've been told off for rolling my eyes. Like, that was a big one in a lot of conversations and arguments that we had. He'd get really, really finicky about my facial expressions. And I'd be like, well, first off, I don't think I changed my face there. I don't think my face did anything. Secondly, if it did, I didn't mean to and I'm fucking sorry, like whatever. Thirdly, can we please just talk about this thing that I'm trying to resolve instead of jumping from point to point to point to point? But we can't, because he doesn't want to resolve the thing. He wasn't trying to resolve anything. The actual argument he was starting in the first place didn't matter. It wasn't about that. It was about getting to make me feel horrible. But I spent such a long time thinking that I was just the most frustrating, annoying, awful, terrible person, where like, even when I was trying to resolve the situation, I just made things worse from just the words that I said and the way that I said things and the way that my face looked. And like I said, I've not had that experience with anybody else. It was just an abuse tactic. Similarly, when I eventually went on other dates and met other people and went out for like just events with friends, I was always really, really genuinely shocked when I'd had a nice day. Like an entire outing with someone, I'd left the house, we'd gone to a place, I'd existed outside in the public, probably gotten a little bit overwhelmed, probably had a little bit of a moment at some point, and it had still been a nice day, because I did not have a single nice day with my abusive ex, ever. Like ever. You know, any time that we had a nice day together, any nice days that we looked back on, it was like, yeah, it was nice up until you did this thing. And when I say you, I mean me. It was always my fault. Every single time we went out, I started something, I did something wrong, I was whatever, you know? There was never a single point that we could even go shopping in town together without him getting really, really annoyed at me for something and being like, you've ruined my whole day, you've spoiled everything's ruined now, I want to go home. And I'd be like, okay, oh, I see then. So even though my day had been ruined because I hadn't actually fucking done anything, you know, it would be a case of like I'd bought myself something and not bought him something. I'd spent a little bit more money than he wanted me to. He'd want me to buy him something and I'd be like, no, I can't afford that. And all of a sudden I'd ruined the day. And I felt really bad about it. I felt loads of guilt about it. I was like, I've literally never had a nice date with my boyfriend because I just ruin everything, and I ruin it every single day out that we've ever had. And like when I started actually meeting other people and going out with other people and like having times without him, I was going home and sitting there in like a dissociated daze because I was like, I don't understand how I'm going out and existing as a person and being the person that I've always been and doing the things that I've always done and not having everyone around me get super pissed off at me. I literally didn't understand how I was having a nice day when I always ruined everything. But one of the things that really made me realise how controlling and just like emotionally abusive the whole relationship was that it couldn't, like it was never just when I was having days out with him, it was also when I'd had times by myself. So like when I was a little kid, I made my dad sign a contract that if either of the Beatles ever came to Liverpool, I would get to go and see them live. So when Paul McCartney came to Liverpool in like 2015, I got to go and see him live. My dad got me a ticket and my partner at the time was pissed. He wanted to see Paul McCartney too and I couldn't afford an extra like £400 to get a ticket. Like my dad paid an excessive amount of money for it. There was no way I could get a second one. I was very, very lucky to get to go myself. And he acted very supportive and happy of it. Like he was very like, oh, I don't get all right then. Well, I hope you enjoy it. I hope you have a great night. You know, it really set me up for it. I went, it was fucking amazing. I got to see Paul McCartney live in real life. It was sick. And I got home and I was like, oh, it's been a long day. Like it took me, I'd been waiting outside the venue for ages. I'd then seen the show. I'd gotten the train back home and everything. I was hungry. I was tired. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to order takeout. And he was like, seriously? You spent all that money on a Paul McCartney ticket and now you're going to get takeout too? And I was like, oh my dad spent all that money on a Paul McCartney ticket. Like, not to be like nepo baby, but my dad bought me that. So yeah, I am going to order myself a little pizza. And then we had like an hour and a half argument about how selfish and ridiculous I was to be ordering myself food. Bear in mind, I was like, you can share my pizza. Like, I wasn't like, it's going to be my food and you can fuck off. Like, I was just like, I'm ordering takeout. Are you gonna get anything? And it turned into this gigantic argument that completely ruined the night, you know? Like, when I think back on the time that I saw Paul McCartney, I've had to really put effort into thinking about the actual show and remembering moments from the show that made me happy, that I enjoyed, because otherwise I just thought about this fuck off lengthy argument that I had to have when I got in because I just wanted some food because I hadn't eaten in like 12 hours. Like, I could not have a good time. He would not allow me to have a nice time, and it was always a different reason. It was always something unrelated from the situation that meant that I'd been an asshole in some way, or I'd fucked up, or I'd ruined something, and he was just reacting in a completely valid way because he had feelings and was a person. And it's like, I didn't do anything. I literally didn't do anything, but I couldn't say that because then I was gaslighting him and I was trying to change his reality. And it's like, no, but that's literally what you're doing to me. Anything that I tried, he just turned back around, and it was horrible, you know? And my whole point with the pizza also sort of ties into my last point that I want to talk about, because I didn't realise that I was in a financially abusive situation, because I was like, well, he doesn't steal my money, he doesn't keep my money. It's just that anytime I do have money, he needs something, or the house needs something, or something needs to be done, or I actually owe him money that I forgot about. So anytime I get money, obviously he does get some of it because I owe him it, or, you know, there's all this context to it, but I'm not giving it to him. Like, it's not, You know, it wasn't like that, obviously. And like, yes, it was. He's just remembering the time that I totally borrowed £50, even though he'd never let me borrow money off him, you know? Like, it just didn't happen. But anytime I got any sort of money, and bear in mind that for a good part of, like, the first 2 years of our relationship, I was being paid to be a carer for my dad. So that was like, I want to say £60 a week, but I feel like it could have been £60 a month. Like, I was not making money, you know? Like, at no point in our relationship was I full-time employed or anything. And that only made it worse, because it meant that when I, like, especially towards the end of the relationship, there were times that I got money and he was like, well, you get to live here, don't you? I pay the rent, don't I? And it's like, I cook you dinner every day and wash and clean all your clothes and go out and buy your fucking clothes when things are getting bad and fix them for you and keep the house nice and tidy, and I'm the perfect little stay-at-home housewife that you seem to want. But somehow I also don't do anything all day and I have to give you all of my money. Like, okay. But obviously that was like fairly rare. It wasn't often that I had money that I could give him. So the type of financial abuse that I faced was that I couldn't buy anything without him. If I wanted snacks, I had to also get him snacks. So if I couldn't afford to get snacks or takeout or whatever else for the both of us, I just couldn't get it. If I ever needed anything, if I needed a new pair of shoes, if I needed underwear, if my jeans had gone through, like, if I needed something, obviously I was in a relationship with him and lived with him, so I'd mention like, oh, I need to go out and get this thing. Without a doubt, he would be like, oh yeah, I'll go with you, we'll go into town. Obviously we'd go out, we'd have a horrible fucking time because he had some sort of issue. We'd go in to get the thing that I needed, I'd find the one that I liked, and he'd be like, don't really need to spend that much, do you? You don't need that. And he'd find the cheapest shitter version of whatever I needed and convince me to get that, and act like it was my choice and my decision, and like I was being really smart and cool. There were times that I'd managed to get stuff for like super cheap in charity shops, and I'd take it home and be really excited and be like, look what I got. And his immediate thing would be like, and how much did that cost you? And I'd be like, £10, you know, like it was cheap. And he'd be like, oh, so you're just spending frivolously now, you're just buying whatever you fancy now? And I'd be like, they're £100 now. Like, it'd be something like when I got my projector, like things like that. Like, he was always like, why have you spent money? What do you think you're doing? What the fuck? Even though it was my money. However, we also had multiple arguments about things, like when he just went out and bought an Xbox One on our joint credit card without saying anything to me. He spent like £200 on a record player just out of the blue, phoned me up afterwards and was like, oh, I've just bought this on the credit card, just so you know. And the credit card's another one, because I didn't see shit from that. Every now and again, I'd be like, can we order takeout on the credit card? And we'd order takeout on the credit card. So every 4 months, maybe, 20 quid on some takeout. Somehow this credit card was at over like £2,000. Anytime I got any lump sum of money, I was putting like hundreds of pounds onto this credit card. And every time he told me about it and brought it up, it was bigger. There was more money owed on it. And I'd be like, I haven't fucking used it. Like, it stayed in his wallet. He got to use it. He got to approve any sort of decision that I wanted to spend it with. Like, there was very few times that I ever got to use the credit card. And from like the amount of lump sums that I paid back to him for it over the like 8 years that I was with him, I easily paid over £1,000 to her, over £1,000, and I was using it for takeout every few months when he allowed me to, you know? And I just somehow did not see that as financial abuse. The fact that he wasn't like being like, that money's mine now, give me your money. I just didn't see it as financial abuse. The fact that I had to ask and like have him approve any sort of purchase, and usually have him say no and tell me not to, or advise that I get this cheaper version that I would then get and hate. You know, like it was very obviously financial abuse. I just didn't realise, I just didn't notice, I just didn't think it was. It wasn't the kind of financial abuse I'd heard about. Like, none of the abuse that I went to was really the type of abuse that I'd heard about at the time or seen represented anywhere. So I just thought it was very normal. And especially because my relationship, like, very much echoed my parents. Like, it looked like the picture perfect relationship I'd grown up with. It all seemed cool and fine. Oh, that wasn't my last one, because my last one's like actually like a really big autism one, because anything that I liked, he hated. And to the point where if he liked something first, he would stop liking it. So, like, in a way that was crazy to me. Like, when we first met, he seemed quite excited to show me the things that he was into. So I started getting into stuff. And one of the first big things, he showed me Sonic Highways, the Foo Fighters documentary, because that was coming out at the time. So we watched that weekly. And I started to get really into the Foo Fighters. And it had been his thing that, like, he wanted to watch this. He really liked the Foo Fighters. He liked this band. He wanted to see this show. And the more we watched it and the more I got into it, the more he was like, are we watching that again? Foo Fighters aren't even that good. Dave Grohl's like kind of a sellout, man. And I'll give I do think a lot of what he said about the Foo Fighters now is probably right. However, it was just the first time that I liked something he had already liked and thought we were going to bond over something and have something to enjoy together. And the more I liked it, the more he acted like it was really shitty and just not a good thing to like. And actually, like, why would anyone like this bit of shit? And there were some things that, like, he just didn't like that I did, like Doctor Who. Massive Doctor Who fan, he hated it. He didn't seem to mind it too much when we first got together. The more he realised I loved it, the more he hated it and had horrible things to say about it and thought that it was an absolute pile of shit. And, like, I'm, what, like 2 or 3 years out from having moved out from living with him, which definitely, like, prolonged things and made things really difficult because I just wasn't in a relationship with him for a year, so he felt like he didn't have to even treat me as his girlfriend, and because I was being treated so well as that. Like, it's been a massive fucking healing process for obvious reasons, and I'm definitely only just getting back to a point of, like, actually feeling the things that I'm passionate about and actually wanting to do things and create things and enjoy things and be myself with things in the way that I am as an autistic person with all these special interests. Because he just made me feel so silly for the way that I engage with things, for the things that I engage with, just anything I liked, anything I enjoyed, anything that brought me any sort of joy or happiness, he made me feel so silly and pathetic for. Like, it's not even like he, like, shamed me for it, he just made me feel so silly and childish. And, like, if I let anybody know that I enjoy these things or that I enjoy them in this way, they're going to think that I'm a kid, they're going to think I'm a freak, they're going to, like, just immediately laugh at me in my face like he does, you know? Like, it just made me feel so terrible about so many base things of myself and my, like, general creativity and the things that I want to make and everything. Like, I haven't made things really in years and years and years because he just made me feel so silly and stupid for it. And, like, I have years of privated videos on this account because I'd start getting into YouTube and start making videos, and then he'd make me feel so silly and ridiculous and stupid for thinking that I could be someone that made YouTube videos, you know? Like, he didn't even care about me while he was in a relationship with me, so I doubt he's checking up on me now. But this channel does feel a little bit like no, fuck you. I can do my silly little things and people do like it, and I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to do my silly little things and I like them, and I'm not going to feel silly and humiliated and pathetic for it. And, like, I was still with him at the start of my YouTube journey. Like, there's probably some videos he's in, to be honest with you, and, like, he was so mean about it. Like, there was so many times that I fully considered just giving up on this channel and giving up on making this type of content because he just made me feel like no one would ever care and, like, I was really silly and pathetic for even doing it and everyone was just laughing at me. And, like, there was a whole bunch of stuff that went into me, like, having my big realisations and leaving him and all of that. But having this channel and being really proud of it and having him make me feel the way that he did about it was definitely, like, a good fucking step in it, you know? But that is the end of this video. I know it's, like, a really depressing topic, but it's all stuff where, like, if I'd seen people talk about this sooner, I probably would have realised a bit sooner and left him a bit sooner and not had such a lengthy, horrible time, you know? So if I can make a little video that makes one person have a little realisation of it, actually, maybe the way this person's treating me isn't okay, that's the goal, that's the aim, that's all that has to happen. For anybody in an abusive situation, it's very easy to normalise and just get used to it and be like, this is the way things are, you know? And especially for autistic people, when you add up how much, like, we thrive on routine and things being the same and how much we get used to things, I think it's just very easy to stay in very horrible situations and not even realise that they're very horrible situations. And that's absolutely what I did. So yeah, fingers crossed this can help someone out a little bit. And as much as it is a really heavy and depressing topic, I always aim to try and keep things a little bit upbeat, a little bit nice, not as horribly depressing as they could be. So I hope to whatever level you're able to, you've enjoyed this video. If you wanted to give it a like, I do believe that helps me in the algorithm. If you wanted to subscribe, I really love getting new subscribers. It's very fun and it's like an additional fuck you to my horrible little ex. Oh, people don't like me, do they? Well, there's 12,000 of them that do now, mate. It's not that deep, you don't have to if you don't want to, but it's cool if you do. You can also follow me over on Instagram and TikTok if you want to see somewhat more regular content some of the time. I'm trying. You can also follow me on Patreon, where content will actually be going up early now because my internet got taken away. So then we had to get like one of those little box things, and when I uploaded the video yesterday, it took like 4 hours, 5 hours to upload. So I am going to be having to do things the day before. So if my internet speed holds up, Patreon people will actually be getting content like the night before it drops on YouTube. How exciting. And I also have some drafts that I've written up that are just bits of writing, because I always wanted to be a writer. I always really loved writing, and that was the first thing that he made me feel like really stupid and pathetic for. So I do, it's just all the stuff that I really loved and enjoyed that I felt so silly and pathetic for, that I'm slowly reintegrating into my life and learning to enjoy again and getting over that, essentially. And it's tough, it's tricky, I won't lie to you, but I think I am doing it, and there's things I'm enjoying again, and I just want to be myself, you know? Like, I just want to be myself, not what he was trying to make me be. So whoever you are and wherever you are, I hope you're having a lovely morning, evening, day, afternoon, week, month, year, and I will see you again in a couple of days.